you need to have like trust. Notice that the idea of political apathy is that regardless of anything we do in our local government, the government is always going to clamp down on us. That's why notice that when it comes to Nigeria election, the lowest sort of party, they're like, oh, they're just going to president. But the last thing is that when it's difficult to override people's opinion and choice. Notice that what happens most times is that whenever the state government is supporting anyone in terms of politics, there is nothing that is always going to be done. The idea is this is the person that the state wants, they are still going to like win regardless, so there is no way to get accountability and all those sort of things. There are two things to say here. Number one is that our world is a much more equitable world, which means we are going to have uniformity amongst all states. The issue with their world is that in places like Lagos State that are very, very vast in resources, they have the ability to do things like make their local government elections to be better. It is very, very bad because states that are less like rich are always going to suffer in terms of their local government. When this is handled by Independent National Electoral Commission, it means that across all states, they are going to have things like uniformity in terms of things like the amount that they are going to be using in terms of funding and all. But the trickle effect on that is because the way INEC works is that INEC often goes to things like the polling units and all those sort of things to ensure that things that are going on there are
No.
I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. The most important thing we need to settle in today's debate are two things: necessity and efficacy. We need to question and answer in today's debate if it is necessary for us to take what government proposes in today's debate, and secondly, how efficient is it going to be in the context of Nigeria. We need to understand, firstly, the unique context of Nigeria, so we don't end up accepting shiny policies that will only end up being counterproductive in status quo. Today's debate is not about proposing something new, but proposing what has an exclusive benefit from what we're already doing, and that's something that government has failed to show us. What exactly is the exclusive benefit that comes when we take a lot more burden and place it on the INEC to conduct elections on the state level? Most of the things they talk about already exist with the state. But then secondly, notice that a major flaw with them is that they don't even engage their body. They talk about free and fair election, but you already know that there is a huge logical gap with that point, because whether it happens on the state level or with the INEC, there would always be issues of lack of free and fair elections. So we do not think that it's a unique thing that they have on their side if they say, oh, INEC should handle this, because free and fair elections would still be a problem, because it's people with the same kind of mindsets, the same kind of biases that would still be in that system. But also notice, panel, how they assume that there will always be issues of funding and all. Every state has an allocation for their elections, so we do not think that that is a problem that matter within today's debate. So panel, what then do we bring from our side of the house? We think that states should keep handling, we think that the State Independent Electoral Commission should keep handling it. Firstly, because it makes elections to be more efficient, and it means that notice how things are likely to be be more productive when you break them down into smaller units. Notice how things are likely to be more productive when you delegate things to people and don't cluster a lot of burden on one particular center, simply because those smaller units are able to find the most important things that are closer within those systems in which they are happening. But why is it important to break down things when it comes to election? We need to break it down into smaller units like the State Independent Electoral Commission, because look at the vast land we have in Nigeria. Nigeria has over 277 local governments. Each of them have unique data, each of them have unique geography, each of them have unique ways of cultural integration. Realize how inefficient INEC is currently. So if INEC is already inefficient at the state in which it is right now, what then is the point of putting burden on them when they are already currently unable to handle the data available, unable to handle things like integration issues within all of these over 200 local governments in Nigeria? But we think that we should not take up new things if it will not happen in its best productive and effective form as possible. Panel, we think that we also need to answer the question of necessity. We think that it is very unnecessary to ask INEC to begin to handle these things. But the mistake that government makes in today's debate is that they think we are trying to say states should handle this. You already say, oh, it is independent electoral commission on the federal level. It means that even on the state level, we are calling it an independent electoral commission for the states. We are not saying that the state itself will begin to handle things by themselves and engage a lot of biases. The only difference is that in their world, they are reporting to the federal level. In our world, we are reporting to the State Independent Electoral Commission. We think that today's debate is very simple. If you think you want to handle corruption, asking INEC to handle it does not reduce corruption. If you think you want free and fair election, asking INEC to take that body does not promote free and fair election. But in our world, we are presenting something very exclusive. We think that things should be delegated so that they are able to see the smaller details that make this effective within the smaller units and within the smaller local governments. We also think that INEC is already having a lot of flaws in its responsibilities right now, and we are only putting the country into more stress, into more demands of accountability, into more issues of people or votes getting decided even before they go to the polling units. We think that it is very unnecessary for us to do things like this. Two things we need to note in today's debate is that Nigeria has a lot of disparities. The best thing we can do to ourselves is to ensure that all these disparities and challenges that can happen during election period within these local governments are handled by a unit that is closer to them, that is easy for you to report to and hold accountable, compared to putting a whole lot of burden on INEC. We also think that you need to answer the question of if it is necessary. From opposition, we say that it is absolutely unnecessary to put such a burden on them. Today's debate is a clash of efficiency and necessity. So the only way that they can win today's debate is if they can prove to us the extent to which the major problem Nigeria is facing, which they talk about, will be handled by INEC. They also have to prove to us the extent to which the uniqueness of Nigeria will benefit with INEC handling these things. Thirdly, they have to prove to us why the same Independent Electoral Commission on the federal level that has failed for many years and many decades should then be given another responsibility when on their level currently they have a lot of flaws and issues that have put this country into a lot of chaos. Panel, we want a Nigeria where things can happen in the most smooth way possible. We want a Nigeria where unique challenges are not ignored because there is so much work to do. We want a Nigeria where we don't keep proposing new policies just so it can look like we are doing something about Nigeria. Nigeria does not change necessarily by introducing new things. It changes by ensuring that things are delegated to the point that it is impossible to say there was nobody allocated or responsible for these certain kind of challenges within Nigeria. Panel, we see no reason why INEC should handle these things. The State Independent Electoral Commission is too independent. They are closer to the people. They see more disparities. There is no uniqueness we get from God's word, and so we are very proud to win today's debate.
So firstly, I think we're allowed to do dedications at finals. So my aunt is here, my mom in Abuja is here. Thank you so much for making it here. She's usually busy and she works in the Ministry of Justice. I'm very glad to have you in the company. She's there that sponsor. And special education to my partner. Thank you so much for this amazing experience. And to University of Ilorin, better by far. Everywhere we are, you see us. And to DJ, I recognize you also representing Ilorin at the national level. So starting my speech now. The idea of necessity is to question the idea of saying why something is also justified. The burden within this debate is to largely justify something and say why this is principally justified and the need to do this at every level. Not just the comparative or not just the pragmatic, but largely justifying it. I think one thing that we have to understand about politics is that politics can be highly emotional and things like ethnicity can be highly driven with it. So for example, if Oyo State is having an election, I'm most likely going to be moved to making sure that someone from my private local government wins the election. But in comparative note, if someone from Osun State is largely the one probably supervising it, there's likely no incentive for me to want to interfere at that point. Why is it better for independent national electoral committee of funding and resources? INEC has had the ability to reach out to every single local government when they are controlling things, when they are having things like presidential election. So they have been able to even reach Akwa Ibom that has lands of waters and seas and all those sort of things to reach these people. Your debate cannot be about outreach or all those sort of things. But then couple of responses, direct responses to them on the idea of outreach and body. The debate assumes that INEC to a very large extent can do this. We've shown how this is principally justified and that is most likely being done at the end of the day. A couple of extensions on why we win within this big debate. Second, just on analyzing more accountability and why attention towards this small system makes it more accountable for them. Like I said, on the idea of accountability, there's less likely for people less interference. And this is a very critical example. Let's even bring it down here. There is no University of Ilorin judge that is sitting here or all those sort of things to be less likely to be biased. That is the idea of accountability and how it is going to work. So at the point where you switch up, you make sure that people who are supervising this local government election is very likely that they are less likely going to be interference. That is the word that we do want. I think the second thing is on the idea of attention towards the system. State election hasn't got much attention and it is very necessary for us to be able to know who our councillors are, who our chairmen are, who is representing us at the least and the most proximate level. At the point in which INEC is largely handling this thing, there's more likelihood that you are most likely going to inquire about, oh, who is the chairman? Let me go and look for who this is and largely vote for them idea. I think the most important impact is the idea of the blame game ends. So if local government is shouting that the reason why this is at fault is because the state government is not doing it or all those sort of things. At the point in which INEC is largely interfering in this, there's the idea of blame game ending and the federal government is largely involved in this. The last thing is on the idea of promotion of terminal agency. The recent law that was passed by President Tinubu was saying we want to grant autonomy to the local government. This is a critical debate that largely attends to that. That means to the point where the president is already recognizing the independence of local government and the need to grant them autonomy. This largely supports it and also recognizes the need to promote this and ensure that they are able to even conduct the election without the interference of probably powerful people within the state, all those sort of things. I think the last thing on comparison and way upon why we need this debate. The free and fair election comparison is very likely. The idea is if they claim that they can't be free and fair election within states, if it is highly behind them, they can't show a comparatively better world where the state is handling it, if your federal is that worse. And the example is very critical. If you are saying, let's say for example, the president of the state nation is corrupt, you are saying, oh, there's less likely that probably the president of the governor of the state is less likely corrupt, that can be comparative. There's a high incentive for there to be more free and fair election within that space. This is my fifth NPOY. 3, 2, 1. The second thing is the idea of your funding and how a comparatively better we still get that more funding and more resources. Notice how the INEC is under the exclusive legislative list. That makes it highly likely that they are also going to be getting access to things like all this federal military, federal police, or all those sort of things to attend to these people or to ensure that the free and fair election that we largely need within this local government election is highly necessary and to promote the autonomy of all these people at the end of the day. Panel, you have to be able to. And these guys cannot win on the idea of saying, oh, there's no necessity for it or all those sort of things. The last thing is to show why outreach and the outreach idea is countering the debate. The idea is the INEC has been able to reach down to every 3,774 local governments, even at the presidential stage, at the point in which they are conducting local government. The debates can say, hey, you can no longer cater for them. That is showing like you no longer care, but they no longer have importance. Panel, ladies and gentlemen, the last thing to be able to understand within this debate is we need to be able to understand that local governments are also important. They need to be heard and all those sort of things. The critical thing about this debate is to examine why Nigeria should do something, why it should be principally justified. Opening opposition is trying to clamber down on that by saying, oh, it's not necessary, let them just go and sit down, we'll probably settle them sometime later. At the point in which the president has recognized it, it is very important that this should be largely principally justified. But we have more accountability on our work, less likely to be more resources and all those sort of things. Control of violence is high likelihood we win on those three things. Proud to come from Coach.
We call on the Deputy Leader of Opposition to close the case for Team Opening Opposition. Here.
Okay, before I start my speech, I'll also dedicate my final speech to this wonderful lady here. We love the way she speaks and the way she's been encouraging people to clap for people, almost like we forgot to also clap for her. So please let's give a round of applause for her. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll be starting my speech. 3, 2, 1, let's go. So, I will be basic with today's debate and very simple. Because this debate does not need all these complex ideas these guys bring. We are dealing with Nigeria now. We have had the historical trace of how things happen currently and what it looks like on social media and what the citizens then do after these elections. So when they suggest INEC comes, it becomes better. Which country? That's a very weird analogy you bring into this debate because there is no historical trace of where all the benefits they say that INEC does currently as it stands now have been credited to them because we are still part of the people that still deal with these issues that they are still going to complain about at a very point in time. The very brilliant thing I'm going to do in today's debate, and just shows how opening opposition is just exclusively brilliant in today's debate, is to turn all their worries and mitigate it in our own word, and just include worries in our own word, and show you how our word best solves that problem. One, nepotism. We think, oh, a lot of the time, these people are very, very nepotic in nature. The problem with that is that, calm down, I'll take you in my 5th minute, at that point you discover your fault. Okay, the problem with that is that you need to understand that both INEC and the state independent electoral committees are both independent. The difference why they just say INEC and the states, notice that's the first error in their comparison. They say INEC and the states. No, okay, let's make it very simple. INEC and SINEC. This is the idea of today's debate. The difference therefore is their report system. One reports to the federal and the other reports to the states. But why do they report? And that's the unique nature of INEC both at the central level and at the state level. Why do they report? To ensure that there's a continuous improvement of all the intricacies they find during those electoral periods. So at the point where they report, you need an almost immediate reply to ensure that you make it more efficient in next and subsequent elections. But you don't get that when you carry issues from the local government and report to the federal and ensure, okay, at what point before you break all the bureaucracies for them to actually get any sort of response? The most important clash, and that's the idea of efficiency, and it tells you. Notice that there's no direct response to this claim. All all these guys will say, okay, we want free and fair election. I don't think they're actually members or citizens of Nigeria in the first place. Okay, the biggest problem you get with Nigeria democracy and Nigeria's system of government is on the deregulation of power. And that is why in most instances, people still clamor for true federalism to break down these systems, right? Why do we have the constitution actually insisting that power should be broken down to the point that local government and the states have more responsibility? And it's because you make it less complex for the federal government, right? It's just like, okay, I make somebody a head boy and I still want to come and conduct assembly in the primaries, which is very ridiculous and morally bankrupt to the idea of what we think this debate look like. So what do we get on our side of the house? First, we think that when you deregulate power, there are unique responsibilities that come with that. Notice, the only thing they told you is wrong with signing. First of all, they don't even understand what that is. The only thing they told you is wrong with the states is that the states are going to have people of interest that they want to put in places of power. But see how they fall into NS brilliance when they respond to our case and suggest that, oh, we think that INEC is still going to reach out to citizens of the states to run those elections within those particular points in time. We think there are three things here. One, those citizens still engage with the states, right? They still belong to the states. They are still going to be nepotic. We don't think they are very, very much independent. I'm not yet in my 15th year, disturbing me. They're still very, very much independent. We think those things don't work, right? Because for you to make those sort of claims, right, you need to show us how it works and how there's like a mutually exclusive benefit. From INEC that currently exists now, we don't think they speak to the heart of today's debate. But the most ridiculous thing they tell you on accountability is that, oh, we think that these guys have a higher reputation. What reputation? They don't show you how that reputation has been protected through time. Through time where citizens are still clamoring for aggressive means to restructure the electoral process and still call out the INEC, especially every single time when we have elections in our country, right? So which reputation do you protect? Is the reputation where ballot boxes are stolen at every point in time when we have elections? More security at the federal level. Which security protects these people, right? Which security exists where people don't eat? Every election that happens in this country, we have aggressive, just irregularities, and we still complain on those things. Currently, assistance now, probably these guys just go abroad. But Lorry is not even far from a place where like so much electoral violence. But let's not even go to state issues and let's just engage what the debate look like. But what's the unique thing you get from NS piece of material? One, there's a reason why we speak about efficiency, because if we reduce today's debate to free and fair election, we think that free and fair election happens and cannot happen in both worlds. One, if the federal is going to run it in the most purest form, we're going to get free and fair election. Even if the state, the Senate is going to run it in the most purest form, we're still going to get free and fair elections. But when we get agree that one of the major issues in Nigeria is actually corruption, we both say, oh, both federal and the state are both corrupt. Which both do we get efficiently running that idea? One, at every point in time, right, even during the census, we are less likely going to get something close to a perfect number for Nigerians. Why? Because elections and I'm almost done with my time, so let me take it briefly.
That's why you have that all your states, like local government, are being run by the ruling party. How do you ensure the accountability?
Okay, so when INEC hire people from Kano to go and supervise that election, you need to make us understand what those hiring look like. Are you hiring the INEC who will run the election a single representative? Because they already do that in status quo, right? And that's the core of today's debate, because they still send representatives and all of those things. Even when they report at the central, at the central level, we have like polling units, officers, and all of those things. I think these guys should just engage in the heart of the debate. But one, the unique nature of local governments that we have currently in today's debate is because we have different local governments with different geographical specifications and different, type of culture and all of those type of things. There's a unique benefit that this does to this debate, such that those sites are able to spend more, like they share the same, historical, past and all of those type of things. And understanding, the unique nature of the culture that exists within that space. The problem with you bringing entirely new people is that there are more places they are not even going to cover just because they are scared of those places, or just because they don't even understand the culture of those places, right? You think that there are language barriers that exist with local government, and in most instances, you just need to break down those systems in most efficient way possible. What are we giving you in this debate? And make sure this is very clear from any extension you get from our closing. The first thing we told you is that one, it is not efficient because we can't reduce the debate to corruption because it happens in both worlds, so we need it to be more efficient, and the reporting system. Next thing, it is not very necessary for me to do what INEC currently feels as it stands now. Thank you for winning this debate. We're very, very much proud to be from opening position.
very much, Deputy Leader of Opposition, and that brings us to the end of the debate from the opening half. So we now call on the member of government to advance the case for the closing government. Here.
Alright, so first things first, we need to revisit the motion. In trying to believe, you accept the flaws and advantages of anything, really. You accept that even if the outcome might be flawed, or even if the outcomes might not be what you intended or you desired, something still intrinsically possesses a quality of Nigeria and its electoral system, right? So, panel, quickly. First and foremost, we need to realize a couple of things. We concede on the side of closing government that elections are not suddenly going to become better or free and fair because it is now the federal INEC that is conducting it. We see that to the opposition, right? However, what we need to make them understand is that we have a failed system of elections. We have a failed electoral system. It's failed. And what we are trying to find is the evident and the best way to remodel this system for our own benefits. And we think that the best way to remodel our electoral systems is to make sure that we increase the ability of the electorate to interact with the grassroots level vis-a-vis the electoral system. We think that the best way to go is to begin at the grassroots level, right? We want to bring the strongest force of our electoral system down to the grassroots level for very evident reasons, four that I'm going to mention. First, we want to have elections first and foremost, right? Let's have elections at the grassroots level. Everybody forgets that most of the time we don't even have elections there. We're not even talking about whether the election is free and fair. We're talking about whether the election even held, right? We think that that is the first and most important aspect of a democratic process before we can then go on to reparations about whether the election was free and fair. So first we want to have elections, right? Secondly, we want to have reparation. We want to have a system in place that allows people who feel vanquished, who are vanquished by the electoral process, to seek reparations, and we think we get that better in our world. Third, we want to increase visibility, right? But this visibility is just not any sort of visibility. We want to increase prospective and retrospective visibility, and I'll explain that. And then finally, I want us to be able to better highlight our failures, and we just cannot do that with the current electoral state. Let me face some of the things that OGO bring. First and foremost, they say that state elections are more efficient and that smaller units are easier handled when broken down into these units. Panel, that is a fallacy, right? And the reason is very, very simple. When you have a better resource system in place to handle an election, it simply means you have better resources to conduct the election. It's that simple, right? State elections, especially at the grassroots level, especially at the local government level, do not use things like beavers. They don't use things like any of the electoral capturing data systems. They don't even conduct elections at all. What we are trying to make sure is that we bring that system that is operational at the federal level down to the state level, right? And that increases efficiency. Even if it is not perfect, it increases it, and that is a start. We're happy with that, right? But then secondly, we also want to make them understand, therefore, that there is a narrower control base at the state, right? There's a narrower control base at the state. The governor is able to literally have a hegemony over all aspects of an election process because the control base is narrower. We think that that is eliminated, not eliminated, we think that that is reduced when you impose a national system, right? Because then his control base is eroded. You cannot control a national system as a state governor. It's impossible, right? And therefore, we also think that that increases efficiency. It might be minimal, but it's a start, and we're happy with that. Secondly, panel, let me just go straight to my case. Panel, let's have elections, right? As I mentioned earlier, first and foremost, we're often unable to have elections at the grassroots level, and that is because state governors simply impose. They simply impose councillors, they impose local government chairmen without the conduct of a free and fair election, without the conduct of any election at all. We think that we increase the chances that an election is held in any situation when we have the federal system in place. Why? One, better resources. Two, it's less easy, as I mentioned, to control. It's less easier to control a federal system as a state governor. And as a result, we will simply have a situation where elections hold more often at the grassroots level, right? We think that that is a pertinent first step. Because when you conduct an election, you can then begin to inquire and investigate the processes of their election. We must first have an election. Secondly, panel, let us have reparation. And what do I mean by reparation, panel? We think that the structures available at the federal level allow for data capturing. This is again very important. Data capturing does not happen at the grassroots level. There's no data. All you see are sheets that produce the names of people that have been elected. There's no evidence to whatsoever to prove what has happened. But we think that using the federal electoral system provides you with an ability to capture data. Again, the data might be flawed, but what it therefore means is that someone who is vanquished can therefore go to court and take preparation. We think that what is very important in our electoral system and in the whole democracy is justice, right? We think that it's important that a person who has lost an election on unfair grounds be able to seek justice. That is absolutely unavailable at the current state that we are at, especially at the grassroots level, at the local government level. We want that to be present. We want people to have access to data that they can use to build a case material and go to court. They might win, they might lose, but at least they were able to seek reparation. Very important. A core democratic principle and statute that is absolutely unavailable at the local government level. Let people be able to seek reparation. Third panel, we want to increase visibility, and as I said, visibility entails both prospective and retrospective. When we say prospective, right, we mean that we want people to be able to see what is happening in real time. They first allow us to be able to capture data happening as the elections progress. We want people to be able to see what is happening at an election that they are usually most invested in. Panel, note that people are often very interested in a local government, job, because this is the form of government that is closest to them. We want people to be able to see and interact with that better. That is prospective. It is their right. It is a core right of people that are voting to be able to follow the electoral process, and that is absent at the grassroots level. We want people to be able to do that. Let them be able to follow the electoral process. But then retrospectively, panel, we think that this also boosts election chances, the chances of electing better people in the long run. Because what it does is that it provides you retrospective data, right? It allows you to see patterns. People who have been voted, people who were voted for, people who were not voted for, and how they performed. It allows you to compare these things. We need serious and important patterns for voting, panel. We need patterns for voting that allow us come to objective conclusions about how a person performed in office, if he or she was really elected in office, especially at the grassroots level. Panel, we think that seeking out redress and remodeling at the grassroots level is what we stand for in today's debate, and we are proud to come from closing government.
Thank you very much for that speech, member of government. We'll now call on the member of opposition to open the case for closing opposition. Here.
Alright. The panel, ladies and gentlemen, CO will be the only realistic Nigerian team in this debate. Because what others have said are equally a stalemate in both worlds. So let's start with the opening half. The crux of the argumentation is always based on control and funding. Oh, INEC is controlled by this. Oh, state electoral independence commission are controlled by the state. Realistically, this is a stalemate in both worlds because the president appoints the INEC chairman anyway. The National Assembly instigated the act of INEC anyway. So there are always constant accusations of INEC activities being controlled by the government. There's also the same accusation when it comes to our side, that state independence are also controlled by the state. This is equally a statement, and there can't be an argument in both worlds. None of them prove how one is much comparative or one control is much more bigger than the other. It's equally a statement. When it comes to the aspect of funding, of course, we are all Nigerians. INEC has complained of funding for time immemorial. In 2015, they complained of funding most of the polling units. In the last election, they complained of how they couldn't fund an online election. These are more integral aspects of fund efficiency with INEC. We don't also see on our side, that we equally have funding and we are equally efficient. No, these
Our own side also suffers funding because we all receive funding from the same source anyway, the federal government, and also from our internal generated revenue. So funding is a deficiency in both worlds. We think the silly thing that came from closing government is to say that, oh, election don't hold at all. One, this is an assumption at best that the 774 electoral government don't hold elections, and they want us to be stupid enough to believe that. Even if you consider some blood is more likely fall on their side. Secondly, they say that, oh, we don't have access to data visibility. Someone last year, Yiaga had an advocacy of how we need to create a restructuring around the State Independent Commission of Data. When you request for data, we more likely get those particular things. We have seen the science where data has been requested, and you have provided this data to create an assumption of where election don't hold is more likely flawed in this space. We can't run by that assumption. If funding and control are stalemates in this debate, then what exactly is a stalemate on our side? Notice panel, we need to consider the nature and the contextual nature of Nigerian elections. It is usually predicated on no matter how free and fair the election is, there would be instances of people saying they are rigged and want to take the case to court. There will be instances of accusations of the election being, some discrepancy within the elections. These are constant flows. So we are not saying that if on our side these accusations will exist, on INEC side these accusations will exist. The validity of an election is usually post-election because they will sue INEC court to come and defend the integrity of their results. The same way they will sue state independent electoral commissions to court to defend the election of the local government results. In which world is that court case better? It is in our world. Because with INEC, they have a lot of cases to prioritize. This is intuitive enough for us. The vast majority of us don't care about local government elections. All we care about is who become the president or who become the governor of each state. None of us know any local government councillor or any local government chairman. We simply don't care. It means that a translation of the electoral, intuitiveness of these particular things are usually prioritized on their own side. So in our world, when they call INEC to defend the integrity of results, the prioritization is always based on to defend the integrity of the result of the presidential election or the gubernatorial election. These are what the electoral tribunal usually prioritize. And that's because there are a lot of body post-election on INEC to defend a lot of things and to answer for a lot of things. In our own world, and this is the best case scenario and the stalemate on our side, in our own world, what happens is that the State Independent Electoral Commission only have one thing to answer for, and that's the local government and that's the integrity of the local government result. Why is this better on our side? It is better on our side for a democratic reason. This is a principled debate panel. We think this is much more better on our side because, one, the idea of a prolonged interaction of courts usually erodes the kind of justice that this particular people get. In their world, when they sue INEC to court for the integrity of this particular result, what you have is that INEC have presidential elections to call out to answer for, gubernatorial elections to answer for. The prioritization of this particular case usually will affect in their world the integrity of them coming out to call ask for the integrity of the government results. And this nationwide, they don't care about these things. It means that the call out will be minimal. As opposed to our world, the State Independent Electoral Commission only have one thing to answer for, and that's the local government results. This argument is better than because there are things that they are overburdened within election. Our own is based on the post-election, which justify the validity of the election in itself. We think we achieve that in our own world. But then secondly, is to look at the idea of interactions. Notice very importantly that when they say that you will more likely interact better when you use INEC, right? Notice, interaction becomes flawed when you don't prioritize that interaction. Notice, in status quo, the prioritization of INEC is usually presidential election and gubernatorial election because that's what most people care about anyway. It is that prioritization isn't on their side, and that interaction can't be quality as opposed to our world where the only thing we focus on is local government election. We think the interaction and prioritization is much more better in our world as opposed to what is more likely obtainable in their world. Notice panel, we bring a democratic principle of people asking for reparations. Notice in their world, this longevity of preparation is more likely skewed. The fact that you have to go from state to the headquarters of Abuja to ask for reparations, the mere fact that you're not even a priority in the first place, given that there are overburdened of cases to answer for, the mere fact that they are not necessarily the major reason why they are more likely existing as an electoral body, means that you don't get that democratic justice in your world post-election, as opposed to an actor that his sole aim is organized for your benefit and also for you. It's easier to call that actor to order, and also that's the only thing they can answer for anyway. We think in their own world they get none of those correct principles in their world. We think it's more like a student in their world. We proudly oppose.
Panel, this debate, first of all, is a belief motion. And of course, what we're trying to do is to provide solutions that will progress our democracy. And very importantly, an election is a key component of democracy. And to the extent that the election of a state has failed, that state, if it is practicing democracy in and of itself, has failed. Therefore, what we are trying to do in today's debate is to find out what gives us a better outcome in our elections at the level of the local government, right? Now, what am I going to be doing in today's debate? First of all, I'm going to be rebutting most of the cases that come from the side opposition, right? And I'm going to be telling you why our side from the government wins this debate and why our matter from the side of the closing government wins today's debate. First of all, what did we get from the opposition? They came here and made it look like the state body that will be conducting this election are aliens, right? These same individuals that are conducting this election are Nigerians, they are not foreigners. So the idea of we're going to be importing people from outside, no, that's not the case. We are not saying that both sides, on our side from government, we're not saying that INEC conducting the election will give us perfect election, right? We know that INEC in and of itself is flawed, but we believe that what we will achieve when the INEC conducts the election will be better for our democracy. First of all, what they say that it's going to be a burden for INEC, I don't see how that works, right? Because we have INEC conducting, it's not like the local government elections we had at the same time with the general elections. So INEC can comfortably conduct it, and it makes it look like INEC are not used to conducting elections at the local government levels, right? INEC conducts House of Assembly elections, so that is not like something that is alien to them, that's something that actually happens. Now, when they come up with the idea of it being delegated, right? We tell you that it doesn't, the two elections, the general elections and the local government election will not be conducted at the same time. So that idea of it being a burden for INEC, I think that doesn't fly. Now, talking about the case of corruption, how it's going to reduce corruption. First of all, these are still state actors who have their own interests. These are still state governors who have their own roles to play. So we think that to the extent that these state actors are directly involved, the corruption that they try to actually counter for is actually not going to be solved if the states are the one that will conduct the election. Notice why, which Noel says, that the reason that local government elections over the years have always been flawed, it's more like a selection, right? Because the major stakeholders are the state government, right? And in that case, we see a selection. In contrast to what happens in INEC, which yes, it's not completely perfect, but there's a level of competence, and there's a level it actually gives us a level of visibility, which is what we're going to be tackling from our own side. Then the closing government from the side of INEC refunding. Now, we're not talking about the funding, how the funding will come and everything. We are saying simply which of them will give us a better electoral outcome and which of them will help to make our electoral process better and our democracy better. Now, what do we get from outside government? Of course, the OG talked about how, of course, how of course, how it will help the funding and how it will encourage more voters to vote. Yes, we say that's actually good, but we say from our own side, according to my partner, we say we are bringing our positive matter, which is the fundamental thing that makes an election credible, and that is four major things, which is one, the visibility, the fact that people can actually seek redress. Thirdly, why it of course highlights the failure of the system, giving room for improvement, and also why it also reduces the state hegemony which currently exists in the status quo, right? First of all, visibility. We tell you how visibility is very important in an election. To the extent that the state is not able to produce that which we have seen over the years. But in contrast to INEC, yes, we know we just conducted a general election. Yes, we know that it was flawed. But to an extent, there was some level of credibility to some areas. Why? Because some data were collected. Why? Because people were able to see that yes, there was actually corruption. There was actually malpractice. Why? Because of this visibility that was available. That will not exist in a state-run election. It will be virtually impossible for that to happen. Secondly, we talk about reparations, right? Now, in a case where the state are completely in charge of the local government election, panel will tell you that there is a reason why the government of Nigeria made the local government autonomous. That is because we want to reduce the rate of the control of the state as far as local governments are. We actually have three arms of government, but in essence, the local governments are not actually independent. Why? Because of the actions of the state. Now, in cases whereby anybody who loses an election can be able to seek redress because of reparations to be easier to achieve. Why? Compared to if it is done in a Jamboli way in the state, where you don't know how elections are being conducted in Kaduna. Most times you see that everybody has won, the ruling party has won, but now it is easier. That's why we see in cases House of Assembly elections, you see House of Assembly members going to court, and you see them actually getting justice. You see people you see actually the parties, not the whole, like the chambers in the state house, not being completely controlled by the ruling party. That is because we have some level of, because we have some, the bias to reduced. I tell you that would virtually be non-existent when non-existent in a state-controlled election. Then we also talk about, okay, I'll take you in a minute. Now, we want to talk about why, of course, this will highlight the failure. We know that INEC has failed, right? We know that INEC has failed, and we want INEC to get better. We want INEC to continue to get better. How do we do that? By making sure that they keep learning from their mistakes, by making sure that as they conduct this election, they keep finding out that they have faults, and they keep finding out that this, and with that, obviously, they will keep on improving. But when you reduce this, it becomes difficult for them. Now, first of all, how does it reduce state hegemony? When you have the federal to an extent to controlling or conducting this election, it becomes very difficult for the state to hold that hegemony for the local government. Because why? The stakeholders, the major stakeholders, the major stake actors in the election are to a very large extent not be under the control of the state actors. So what have we told you from our side in today's debate? We've told you two things. We've told you fundamentally why everything they bring in terms of it being according to INEC, in terms of it being a funding issue, and why it's less corrupt, doesn't fly, right? Because we still have that in the system. State actors are not alien, there are still people within the system. Second, we also told you why this is important for the electoral system, because it better ensures visibility and it highlights the failures of the system, and it reduces the control of the state or control of the state in the local system. Hence, we have House of Assembly elections doing better than the local government election that currently exists in the status quo, proudly closing the government.
Thank you very much, Government Week, for that speech and for closing the debate from Team Government. We call on Opposition Week to come and close the debate for today. Here.
Panel, what you exclusively don't get from any other side of this debate aside CEO is still the same mistake that the government will comes to repeat.
And that is the idea that what actually makes any team win this debate is the extent to which they are able to fiat the exclusivity and the principles that work in this debate, especially in connivance with the principles of democracy in itself. That is why it is foolproof to talk about things like elections when you cannot essentially connect these things to what you cannot necessarily get on middle grounds. That is why most of the debate so far has been on things that, oh, we can get from both state elections or INEC, as the case may be. What you have gotten from us, which of course CG were also unable to essentially engage, is essentially what you get from the use of state electoral bodies to undo local government without the use of INEC in any way. Now, this is it. First, we win on the cases of principle, right? Democracy in itself is a system that works on the principle of minorities. Even though, yes, you understand that the majority will always have their way, right? The minority are expected to also have their say. It then means that the true test of democracy is the extent to which it can take care of minorities. In this debate, the minorities are local government elections, which based on how much of which people care about it or how much of priority that it gets from the Electoral Commission is relatively low. And that is why what we weigh compared to any side of this debate is the extent to which that minority syndrome itself is taken care of. Is the extent to which local government elections can actually be prioritized. It does not matter if you win those cases, but right, that at every time, every action and expected reactions are expected to be dealt out, right? On our side, we are also the only ones that essentially engage what exactly happens after these elections. Because as you have gotten from the opposition, member of opposition, the real test of an election itself is also the response that you get post-elections, right? You don't get to even, in fact, judge an election as whether free or fair or effective until that election has ended, and then you have actually evaluated them, right? Very, very simple. And then you hear from CG, oh, let's let INEC learn from their mistakes. That's another stalemate, right? They already concede that from both worlds, challenges can occur. It means that you can then not fiat that INEC are the only ones who should learn from mistakes. It then means that even if we adopt state electoral bodies to identify or conduct local government elections, they can also make mistakes and learn from them. So what exactly has this debate been all about? Nothing from either of the sides so far. What are the clashes? Very simple. The clash of control, right? What you get from OG is that states can maneuver, control narratives, control the media, and all of these things. You have essentially got it from OO. Yes, OG tells you, oh, so when INEC comes, they can effectively hire someone from Kano to supervise an election from Lagos to take care of the problems of nepotism. And then OO problem is not solved. CO tells you, right, that the issue of these accusations, the issue of what comes as aftermath of elections, that no matter how free and fair it is, they believe that they are deserving to win. The same way people in this debate, like CG or O or OG, will still want to question it after they lose this debate, that, oh, we deserve to win. The question is then, how do we get this problem solved better? Since it is obvious that it cannot be prevented from both worlds. And that is why the principle of reparation essentially triumphs over any other case or clash that comes up in this debate. And then on the clash of free and fair elections, you have issues of, OG tells you state has challenges like funding, like personnel, etc. OO comes to respond to that and tell you that don't overburden INEC, right? If you want to be effective. The idea of this stalemate is that first, INEC itself also suffers from these same challenges. Whether you consider funding, whether you consider data, whatsoever these things are. And also, INEC has the potential to be efficient, right? To hire the right persons. INEC has the potential at least to make use of the right resources to ensure they conduct elections. So since on both ends, challenges are a stalemate, and then the possibility of efficiency, it then becomes that what makes ours triumph is again what happens exactly after the election, right? What makes it more relevant, of course, because that is the only exclusive case in this debate. And then when CG comes, they bring us a clash of interaction that, okay, we want to bring the top down and let the grassroots feel it. We want the grassroots persons to know exactly how INEC does these things. Bring them, let them come and conduct elections, even in whatever local government that you are from. The idea that you get from us
in CO is that you cannot talk about interaction where there is no prioritization. If you cannot even prioritize something as important as an after-election court case, then you cannot tell us that there are possibilities of you being able to actually prioritize interaction. It then means that even if we see to it that the interaction is very important, it is still in our world where there is closer proximity and prioritization that even that interaction can be achieved. So you see, we even solve their own problem for them, but using our own methods, not theirs, right? And then talking about visibility, they fear that, oh, when INEC comes to handle an election of interior local government, where I'm from in Ekiti State, there is a higher potential that somebody here would obviously follow that election because it's coming from INEC, right? What you have also gotten from us, from our CEO, is essentially that first, if people do not care about local government elections, they will not start caring so simply because INEC is in fact coming to deal with those things. As a matter of fact, it is even in the places where these individuals feel more proximity, feel these elections closer to them, and higher potentials of their voting actually count and their voices being heard, that you even get interest more, that you get visibility more. And that is why on our board, we even solve the problem of apathy better and faster than them. So even if you want to care, you want to care in a place where you realize that, oh, after all this process of queuing in the long sun, if there is any grievance and I have against this election, I have a bigger chance of actually addressing that grievance. Unlike in places where they have to follow a long queue of court cases. Tell me, where exactly do you get better visibility and interaction than the world of CO? Panel of judges, what you have gotten from us on both issues of principles and pragmatics is that CO is the best team in this debate. Because pre-elections, during elections and post-elections, the solutions you get from our work by using state electoral bodies is triumphing over every other side in this debate. We are proud to oppose.
Thank you very much for that speech, and thank you for closing the debate for today. You can shake hands, talk to each other, and give us a little time to collate our thoughts and give it back. So we'll be giving the room now to go through what they are giving us and make up our mind. So see you in like 15 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together. A round of applause to the debaters. I dare say you have future students, here, right, sitting right here in the hall. I mean, that was brilliant, government and opposition. It was beautiful to see. At this point, I'm going to be calling on the convener of the ANUDC 2024 Championship, Mr. Amos Joseph, to tell us more about the coming championship. Please, let's put our hands together as he comes on stage.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. My name is Amos Joseph, and I'm the convener for this year's All Nigerian University Debate Championship within the Nigerian circuit. I understand how important it is to have more partners spring up in the space, because the truth is civil discourse and youth inclusion cannot happen successfully without the inclusion of more partners. So first, I must say thank you to Yiaga Africa. But more importantly, I want to extend that invitation to everyone who is currently present. The fact that you have chosen to be here today is because we believe in two things. One, in youth inclusion in politics. And secondly, because we believe that civil discourse is crucial to the sustenance of democracy in Nigeria. In light of this reality, we would like to invite you from Veritas University and from the All Nigerian University Debate Championship to attend this year's edition of the All Nigerian University Debate Championship that is scheduled to hold Veritas University Abuja from the 8th of September to the 14th of September. Over the period of 6 days, we'll be having crucial discourse around a lot of various subjects, from local politics to regional politics to international relations to global governance. All of the issues that affect both the lives of Nigerians in the now and in the future are issues that will be deliberated at this program. And so we invite everybody who is currently present to one, come be a partner in our program, come be a part of our event. ANUDC, the All Nigerian University Debate Championship, that stands as the pinnacle of tertiary debating within the Nigerian debate circuit, is happening in 3 weeks. And it's also an avenue to prepare students for both the Pan-African University Debate Championship that is scheduled to host in Uganda this year, and the World University Debate Championship that is scheduled to hold in Panama later.
Thank you, Mr. Amos Joseph, the convener for ANU. Today, I think it's about champions, because we have someone who is the reigning champion for Commonwealth debate team. He's here in the room and he has a few words to share with us. So please, Mr. Ayafa Tonye, will you please make your way to the podium? Let's put our hands together for him. You tell us what it feels like to be a reigning champion.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. So, first off, to answer her question, honestly speaking, and this is something you would hear a lot from multiple athletes. Like, literally 30 minutes after you win the award, you just realize you're a normal person like everyone else. Because what makes champions isn't the winning of the award, it's the amount of time and effort that has transformed you to become the person you are. And as I stood here today, I saw very phenomenal speakers, very phenomenal speeches, and definitely everyone here is a champion. If not today, then eventually. So I just want to take a few words and take out some time to encourage everyone to participate more in public speaking, debate, and advocacy, especially in Nigeria. So the one thing that Nigerians have a difficulty doing is not speaking, it's communicating. If you notice what happened here today, people engaged in largely good faith, an intentional decision to communicate with people and see their point of view and raise them an alternate point of view. The reason why we have so much conflict and so much disagreement in Nigeria as a whole is not because people don't know how to talk, it's that almost every time people talk, we engage in that discussion in bad faith. Debate forces you to sit down, listen to what somebody else has to say, think it through, and give a cognizant and very focused response to what they say. And that's why we need to integrate this more in our schools. As Amos and the NADC and PADC team rightly said, there are more debate programs coming up, and there are processes on ground to help integrate these debate societies into universities and into other organizations that are interested. So I would like to encourage parties that are interested. If you can't reach out to Amos, you could also reach out to me to please help us participate in these programs. If you want to see a better Nigeria, you want to see a better Nigeria, and Nigeria where we can talk to each other without shouting or assuming bad faith, I would implore you all to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Tonye Ayafa, for indulging us and imploring us rather on communication and communicating in good faith. I think we have maybe 5 more minutes while we wait for the adjudicators. I will check on them and revert to the audience on where we are, where they are.
What they are saying, and they don't know the impact. It's already part of them. They'll be going home and they'll be going home. They will take I think that's the process. I think for them to go home and argue that it is something.
Yiaga Africa, on behalf of Yiaga Africa, we do appreciate, we deeply appreciate your presence. I can see that our adjudicators are back in the room. They have such lovely smiles. They are trying to hide what their answers or responses are. Are you ready? Okay, so welcome back on stage, Uju Iloanya, as she takes and gives us the results for the debate. Please, let's put our hands together for her as she comes on stage.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. It was a wonderful debate. We had so much fun listening to you people. We learned a lot from everybody that spoke. Please sit down. It's time for us to announce the results. The results are in. There were 4 teams in this debate, and on a unanimous decision, I've been announcing the team that came third in this debate, and that is team Closing Government, Imo State University. In second position, we have Obafemi Awolowo University. And in first position, on a unanimous decision, we have opening opposition, Veritas University. Thank you very much for joining us. And professional feedback for the debaters can always meet any of the judges. Thank you.
Because we no go for long.
I guess this is where we insert the soundtrack, Stand Up for the Champions. But good thing is that all the schools who made it to the finals are champions. I can see someone raising a hand from the students. Yes, please walk up towards me and let me know what. Oh, you don't have it. All right. So I'm going to be calling on our executive director, Samson Itodo, to present the prizes to the winners. Yes, each winner has a prize.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know which is the government or opposition. I don't know who are those who actually won. But I want to thank you for participating in the debate. And I want to believe the judges have the reasons why they selected the way they selected. And if you have any opposition or you have any questions, please feel free to contact the judges. As far as we're concerned, whether opposition or government, you have advanced and deepened the debate about whether state independent electoral commissions or INEC should conduct the elections. Now, this is an ongoing debate. It's a debate that will not end, and we want you to keep up the debate. That whatever group came first does not mean that that is the right option that Nigeria should adopt. We're going to continue in this debate. We have our own different views, but the whole essence of democracy is that a space is created for conversations around these issues. And so this is one way we are contributing to those conversations. And so let me invite one of our special guests who is here to present the prize for the group that came third, and that's the Imo State University. So let me invite the representative of the Minister of State for Youth to make that presentation. So can we have the representative from Imo State University? Yeah, both of you. Please give them a round of applause. That's the third. Yes. So you can give it to you. So the third has a cash prize of 750,000 naira. And guys, smile. You don't look happy. You smile. Thank you very much. Please will have your seat. Can we have the second team of Bafemi Awolowo University? Please come and let me invite the representative of the US from the National Universities Commission to come in. Please give a round of applause. Please, can you give them a round of applause? Thank you very much. And please permit me to invite the DG of the Institute, who will be making a presentation for the winning team. Please continue to have it. Thank you. So let me invite the winning team, and that's Veritas University. Am I right? They have the cash prize of 1.5 So please, if you don't mind, let me invite the two winning teams, the other teams, Obafemi. Obafemi Awolowo University and Imo State University. Please can you come so we take a group photo? And let me invite our special guest to also join us here. Excuse me, here. Yes, so we take. Can we? Okay. Where? Can we have the judges as well? Can we have the judges join us? Can I invite the Yiaga Africa team that walks us through the days? The Yiaga Africa team. The Yiaga Africa team that walks us through the days. Where we are, so maybe can you get some of it in time so we have the walk. Okay, can we invite all the other players who join from the semi-finals? Please come. Please, can you celebrate them? Please give them a round of applause. You are all winners. You are all winners. Please celebrate. Well, ladies and gentlemen, to deliver, okay, thank you. Let me deliver the food of thanks. Please, okay, no problem. But we would like to thank you, all of you, for being here with us. We don't take it for granted that you are here. You spent your Sunday evening with us. Thank you very much. But let me also thank the Open Society Initiative, the Open Society Foundation that provided the funding to do this. But thanks to our judges, ladies and gentlemen, often you see some of us, you don't see the people who work tirelessly behind the scenes to make this possible. And I want to invite my colleagues who worked on this debate, who have been working on this debate over the last couple of months. So please, can you guys come and take a bow and let them celebrate you for the hard work that they put into this. Sakusi, Tonia, and Co. Yes, as usual, they are busy outside. Where are they? Okay, they are outside. All right. But thank you very much for celebrating them. They are the people who do the work. I just come here and hold the mic, but they are the ones who do the work. So we give them all the credits. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any announcements. If there are no announcements, please, we wish you a very pleasant week ahead. Thank you and good night, everybody.
Good night. Have a safe trip to your various destinations.
Yeah, Dave.